Let's continue with the tributes that are pouring in for the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu. We're now joined by former President Thabo Mbeki, who is going to be sharing his reflections with us tonight. Mr. President, thank you so much for your time this evening. Let's begin with your reflections on a day like this.
Thank you very much, Mano. This is a very sad day. We've lost one of our most outstanding leaders, who was at the forefront of the struggle to defeat the apartheid regime, to defeat the apartheid system, at a very, very difficult time in our country when many people were being killed, people being jailed, a lot of suffering. But the Archbishop was there in the front trenches. He was part of the process of the creation of the new South Africa. None of us would forget those images when he sat as the chairperson of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. That was a very, very important intervention in terms of the building of the new South Africa.
And
also the very, very important part of the Archbishop in the creation of that new South Africa was that he really became the national voice of conscience about the tasks of the government, the necessity for the government to loyally serve the people against corruption, against theft, against deceit, against dishonesty. That's a very, very important voice in terms of what kind of South Africa we needed to build. So I'm saying it's a very sad day because really we've lost one of our most outstanding leaders. Indeed, not an accident that he was a Nobel Peace Prize winner, because even globally, he played that role of the mobilization of the world against apartheid, against racism. It's a sad day.
And Mr. President, one of the things that you talk about was really the work that he did at the forefront, and a lot of people tonight have been talking about that, to say that he never shied away from really getting his hands dirty and fighting the system. Talk to us about that boldness that he then had, that continued to then inspire the world, especially when you look at how he even fought for the students who were finding themselves in trouble with the law.
You see, I think the Archbishop was really, I think he was a true Christian. I think he understood his calling in a very precise way. That I mean, his service to his Lord meant his service to the people, and therefore he couldn't stand aside when there was suffering. He couldn't stand aside when something needed to be done. He couldn't absent himself from among the people, and therefore he couldn't absent them for himself from their feeling and so on. So I think it was not in the least an accident that you would find him everywhere where there was need for good people to be there. He would be there. A very strong heart, a very good communicator, very easy with people, and therefore capable of discharging this task of leadership.
And you talk about him as a very important voice when it comes to conscience. And in recent years, we've also seen him come out to lambaste the state of some of what has been happening in the country, the levels of corruption. He wasn't happy with that. And I wonder, as you reflect tonight, do you think the kind of South Africa we have today is one he would have been proud of?
No, not at all. Not at all. He was very upset, very angry that indeed these people who had been with him, side by side with him, fighting to end apartheid, some of them end up in this very bad way. Corrupt, stealing from the people, refusing to discharge their responsibilities to the people. Indeed, I think that this is I mean, we must celebrate his life, but I think as we celebrate his life, this must be one of the points of focus. that the very central message that the Archbishop communicated all the time was this hostility to dishonesty, to theft, to corruption, to wrong behavior, unethical behavior. And our society, unfortunately, we've come, many parts of our society have fallen into bad hands of that kind of person. So the fight against corruption, the fight for a clean society, for a government that truly serves the interests of the people, I think, as we pay tribute to him, to Archbishop Tutu, that surely must be a central part of what we do.
I was speaking a little earlier on this evening to Advocate Dumisa Ntsebeza, who was a commissioner during the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And one of the things that he said, especially to the criticism that some are leveling against the Arch tonight, saying that he was very lenient towards some of those that were seen as proponents of apartheid. What Advocate Ntsebeza was saying is that, in fact, he was quite upset about the fact that some of those who did not disclose fully are still not facing the music for their actions. And he was saying that it is a betrayal for the Arch to have to see that those who he actually said they must be brought to justice have not been brought to justice, and also for the families that are so eagerly awaiting justice. Would you agree with those sentiments?
Certainly. I mean, that was part of the outlook when we agreed, when we decided to establish a Truth and Reconciliation Commission and indicated what it needed to do. And part of that agreement was that people who applied for amnesty should be very truthful, very honest, very open, very comprehensive, and all of that. But that if people didn't take that route, then the law must take its course. That was part of the agreement. So I think the Archbishop was being true to what had been said at the very, very foundation of the TRC, and indeed that is a matter that still needs to be pursued. Those who committed crimes, indeed, they need to be found and then prosecuted as the law of this country stands.
And I'm listening to what you're saying tonight. It really is important for the NPA to really accelerate this process, as it says that it is going to really embark on this process to bring those to justice in order not to betray the legacy of the Arch.
Well, it's necessary. It's not just the NPA. All of the law enforcement authorities need to do what they need to do. And of course, the matter would end up being prosecuted by the NPA. So they must do what needs to be done. But I think what we must also remember is that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission had this major job in terms of national reconciliation. And we look at that question today to say, is the country being reconciled? Are we achieving those fundamental objectives of the TRC? What the Archbishop presided over? And I think our judgment would be that no, we are not getting there. And there are many other things that need to be done in order to achieve this kind of reconciliation that is required. And that includes...
Pardon me, what would you say is at the heart of causing us to go off the rails when it comes to this reconciliation project? Where are we going wrong as a country?
The reconciliation in South Africa requires the eradication of the legacy of apartheid, of the legacy of colonialism. So long as you have all of these major, huge poverty levels, huge inequalities in terms of opportunity, of wealth, of income, and all of that, and then the living, as I said many years ago, that so long as you are two nations, you can't achieve this reconciliation. So it's important to really address this matter of the fundamental transformation of our society. Indeed, which is something that Archbishop Tutu stood for even outside of the TRC. That process is very critical. so that we then say, here is one South Africa that belongs to all who live in it. That has to mean, in a very material sense, we must, all of us as South Africans, feel that this is our country, this is where we belong, and that includes, I'm saying, the eradication of the legacy of the past.
Mr. President, the party that you once led as the ANC president also was not spared when it comes to criticism and harsh words by the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And at some point, he was so upset that he even started saying, we're going to start, at some point, if things continue this way, to pray against this particular government, because that's what we did with the apartheid government. I wonder what reflections should the governing party be making tonight at the passing of the Archbishop?
The Archbishop was correct. He was very correct about the ANC, those criticisms that you made. Now, what the ANC really needs it needs to look at itself honestly and to speak out and explain itself to the nation honestly. You see, because the fact of the matter is, if you look at government, the majority of the people who are involved in corrupt practices in government will in the main be ANC members. So that's a fact, that's a reality. Those ANC must answer the question openly to the people. What happened that this ANC, of all organizations, what happened that this ANC should carry in its ranks this kind of person, who's therefore acting in a way that is very inconsistent with the historic values of the ANC and so on. So it's got to answer those questions and indeed take very seriously what Archbishop Tutu said, that there may very well come a time when we pray for this ANC to fall in the way that we prayed for the apartheid system to fall. That was not a light-hearted statement on the part of the Archbishop. And I'm saying that the ANC needs to reflect practically, realistically, truthfully on what went wrong with itself. Because indeed many things went wrong with itself, and hence it's, you saw even the view of the population just now in the local government elections. That's an honest statement by the population about what they have seen going wrong. So the ANC, I'm saying, must answer these things, and indeed take very much to heart what the Archbishop said.
Mr. President, I wonder, listening to what you're saying, what do you think is stopping the ANC from having an honest conversation?
There are many people in the ANC who are saying what I'm saying. Even now, there are many of us who are engaging. You see, the ANC is going to issue a January 8th, this normal January 8th statement next month, which is going to say this is what the ANC program is going to be here for the year 2022. That statement, some of us are saying, has got to tell this kind of truth I'm talking about. The very results of the local government elections make it imperative that the ANC talks to the country truthfully about itself. I'm saying there are many people in the ANC who are saying that, many people are raising that issue, and hopefully we'll get the ANC to move in the right direction.
As a final question, how do you think then he should be remembered? Because a number of people have got various ways of how they say that the world should really remember this giant of a life that has been described by some as a moral giant.
I think that is correct. I mean, that is indeed a moral giant. He is to us, he must to us as South Africans always remain a person of conscience, a conscience about what kind of society we need to have, what kind of relations we should have among ourselves as a people, what kind of society do we need to build. I've thought for many years that we're a secular society. But if we're the institution of a chaplain general of the Republic of South Africa, I'm quite certain that the very, very first one would have been the Archbishop Desmond Tutu. I'm saying that is why he's standing standing is that thing, what we inherit, we must inherit and carry with us. Here is somebody who is saying to us, we live up to this vision and this image, this kind of South Africa, this kind of society. And we must always strive to do that.
Mr. President, thank you so much for your time this evening. That was former President Thabo Mbeki.